Imagine opening your browser and typing in a website, any website. It could be for news, shopping, or watching this very video. It feels normal, effortless. But have you ever wondered where it all began? What if I told you that the very first web page looked more like a Word document than anything you'd associate with today's internet? No videos, no images, not even colors, just plain text and blue links. It all started over 30 years ago, in a lab buried deep within the European Organization for Nuclear Research, better known as CERN. That's right, the same place where they smash particles to understand the universe also gave birth to the World Wide Web. And like many world-changing ideas, it began with a single person and a question. Back in 1989, a British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee was working at CERN. He noticed that researchers were drowning in information. Data was scattered across different computers, and there was no easy way to share or access it. So, he drafted a proposal to solve this problem. His idea? A hypertext-based system that would allow scientists to navigate between documents using clickable links. At first, his idea was met with confusion. One CERN supervisor even described it as vague but exciting. But Berners-Lee pressed on. In 1990, he built the first web browser and server using a Next computer, the kind created by Steve Jobs after his first departure from Apple. On the side of that computer was a passive-aggressive sticker that read, "This machine is a server. Do not power it down." That little black box became the heart of the first ever website. The first public web address, info.cern.ch, and that was it. No pictures, no ads, just information, and the promise of something bigger. But let's rewind for a moment. The internet, the physical infrastructure behind the web, was born 2 decades earlier. In 1969, DARPA, a U.S. defense agency, sent the first message over a network called ARPANET between computers at UCLA and Stanford. That message? LOG-EN. The system crashed after 2 letters, but it worked. By the end of that year, 4 computers were connected. By 1971, it was 15. In 1972, the first email was sent. In 1973, ARPANET went global, connecting to machines in the UK and Norway. By the 1980s, government agencies like NASA were building their own networks, but all of it was fragmented. There was no unified way to navigate the growing digital sea. That's where the World Wide Web came in. By the early 1990s, the web was growing. More servers appeared, more pages were created. But something was missing: accessibility. Tim Berners-Lee knew that if the web was to survive, it had to be free and open to everyone. And on April 30th, 1993, CERN made a historic decision. They released the World Wide Web's source code to the public. For free. This changed everything. In 1993, there were just 500 websites. By the end of 1994, there were 10,000. By 2014, we had passed 1 billion. Today, we're fast approaching 2 billion websites, and counting. But with this explosion of information came an entirely new set of problems. The early internet felt like a utopia. People from across the globe could connect, share knowledge, and collaborate in ways never before imagined. It was the digital Wild West, raw, unregulated, full of potential. But over time, shadows began to grow in the corners of this new world. Disinformation, hate speech, spam, scams, surveillance. The first known instance of spam happened in 1978, long before the web even existed, when a marketer sent a promotional email to 400 users on ARPANET. The backlash was immediate. But that was just the beginning. As the web expanded, so did opportunities for manipulation. Fake news began influencing elections. Conspiracies spread faster than facts. During global crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, misinformation led to real-world harm. People made life-altering decisions based on posts with no scientific backing. At the same time, social networks, which once promised to bring us together, started pulling us apart. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement often favored outrage over accuracy, anger over empathy. And then came the issue of privacy. Every click, every like, every share became data. Companies harvested it. Governments demanded access. We began to trade convenience for surveillance without even realizing it. Massive leaks, hacks, and scandals, from Cambridge Analytica to ransomware attacks on hospitals and governments, show just how fragile our digital lives really are. The internet has changed how we think, how we learn, and even how we see ourselves. Studies show links between heavy social media use and anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues, especially among young people. The pressure to present a curated version of life has created a disconnect between reality and online personas. Addiction to constant scrolling, to likes, to validation. It's no longer rare, it's the norm. So, what can we do? First, we must acknowledge the risks. Understanding how misinformation spreads is key. We need to teach digital literacy, not just to kids, but to everyone. To pause before we share, to question before we believe. We need stricter regulations for tech giants who operate in a lawless digital frontier. Platforms must be held accountable for the content they amplify. Governments, corporations, and individuals need to work together to create ethical standards for data collection, cybersecurity, and AI development. And finally, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of internet do we want? Section 7. The future. Web 3 and beyond. Right now, a movement is emerging, one that hopes to take back control from big tech. It's called Web 3. Unlike the current web, dominated by centralized platforms, Web 3 promises decentralization, a place where users own their data, where decisions are made democratically using blockchain technology, where power shifts from corporations to communities. It's still in its infancy, and not without its critics, but it represents a dream to reclaim the web's original spirit, a tool for sharing, learning, and connecting. Will the web continue to empower us, or will it consume us? Only together, with awareness, responsibility, and collaboration, can we shape a digital future that lifts us all. The web has changed the world. Now it's our turn to change the web.